Ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to be here today. We live in a world where things aren't always what they seem. Sometimes we come across people who appear charming, confident, even caring, yet deep down they have a darker side, one that's hidden from plain sight. So how do we spot these individuals? How do we recognize the ones whose motives are less than pure? Evil doesn't always come with horns and a pitchfork. It doesn't always show up in ways we expect. In fact, sometimes it comes in the most deceptive forms. A smile, a handshake, a kind word. That's why it's crucial to look beyond the surface and watch for the subtle signs. One of the first things to watch out for is inconsistency. People who are driven by evil are rarely aligned in what they say and what they do. They'll tell you one thing, but their actions betray their words. They'll promise you the world and then give you nothing. This is not the behavior of someone who has your best interest at heart.
Inconsistency between words and actions is one of the most telling signs of a person with harmful intentions. It's easy to be swayed by what someone says, especially when their words seem heartfelt and convincing.
However, when their actions don't align with what they've said, that's when you should start questioning their true character. A person who is inconsistent in this way often appears charming and genuine at first. They may promise to help you, support you, or be there for you, but their actions will reveal something different. They may say all the right things in front of you, even make commitments, but when it comes time to deliver, they fall short, or worse, don't deliver at all. The discrepancy between what they promise and what they actually do can create confusion, making it difficult to trust them fully. Over time, this inconsistency becomes a pattern, and you may find yourself constantly disappointed and unsure of where you truly stand with them. This inconsistency can also manifest in more subtle ways. A person might tell you how much they value your relationship, but when you need them most, they're nowhere to be found. They may speak highly of their integrity and values, but their behavior, whether it's making excuses for breaking promises or acting in self-serving ways, betrays those ideals. The gap between their words and their actions signals a lack of authenticity. It's not that they're incapable of following through. It's that they choose not to. An individual might even go to great lengths to hide their true nature, offering words of kindness or showing concern when they know it will serve their interests. Yet the moment they no longer have a use for you, their actions shift dramatically. The promises they made become empty words, and you're left wondering whether any of it was ever real. What's even more dangerous is that these individuals can be incredibly manipulative. They know that consistency builds trust, so they use inconsistency to create confusion and uncertainty in your mind. This inconsistency serves to keep you off balance, unsure of where you stand or how to interpret their actions. They thrive in the gray areas where nothing is clear, where their motivations can remain hidden, and where you're left questioning whether you're the one misunderstanding things. This behavior is not only harmful, but also toxic in relationships of all kinds. It undermines the foundation of trust, which is essential in any connection. When someone's actions don't match their words, it forces you to question their integrity. It becomes difficult to know whether you can rely on them, and over time, this erosion of trust can lead to emotional exhaustion. You might find yourself constantly doubting their intentions, second-guessing their every move. Recognizing this inconsistency early on can help you protect yourself. Trust is built on the foundation of consistency. When someone's actions and words are aligned, you can feel secure in your relationship with them. But when they fail to align, it's a red flag that shouldn't be ignored. A lack of empathy is one of the most significant indicators that someone may not have your best interests at heart. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, to put oneself in another's shoes and feel their joy or their pain. People who lack empathy often fail to recognize or care about how their actions impact those around them. This inability to connect with others on an emotional level can be a clear warning sign of self-centered or harmful tendencies. An individual without empathy might show little concern for the struggles of others. When someone is going through a difficult time, they may dismiss or minimize their feelings, offering no support or comfort. Instead of offering a listening ear or words of encouragement, They may make insensitive comments or completely ignore the emotional needs of the person in front of them. This indifference to another's suffering reveals a lack of regard for the feelings and well-being of others. People who lack empathy often fail to recognize emotional cues, such as when someone is feeling hurt or vulnerable. They might speak or act in ways that hurt or distress others without ever realizing the impact of their behavior. They are often more focused on themselves and their needs, and their interactions with others can be characterized by a sense of detachment. While most people can sense when someone else is in pain, those without empathy simply cannot, or worse, do not want to. They might show no remorse when they hurt someone, or they may justify their actions as something that doesn't concern them, creating a divide in relationships. This lack of empathy can also manifest in more extreme forms. Some individuals might intentionally cause harm or distress to others without any regard for how it affects them. They might take pleasure in seeing others struggle, whether emotionally or physically. This behavior can be subtle at first, perhaps in the form of passive-aggressive comments or slight manipulations. However, over time, these actions can escalate into more direct harm as the person continues to act without concern for others' emotions or well-being. In relationships, whether personal or professional, the absence of empathy is particularly dangerous. Empathy is what builds connection, trust, and understanding between individuals. When empathy is missing, relationships become one-sided, with the more empathetic individual giving and caring while the other takes without any emotional reciprocation. Over time, this can lead to feelings of isolation and emotional exhaustion for the person who continues to offer care and support, only to be met with coldness or indifference. A lack of empathy is often linked to manipulation. Someone who does not understand or care about how their actions affect others is more likely to use people for their own gain, seeing others merely as tools to achieve their goals. Without the emotional checks that empathy provides, they are free to manipulate, control, or deceive without remorse because they do not experience guilt or concern for the emotional fallout of their actions. A lack of empathy is a clear indication of a deeper, self-serving nature. Recognizing this behavior in someone early on can help you protect yourself from emotional harm, as it often signals that the individual is more focused on their own needs and desires than on creating meaningful, reciprocal relationships. Manipulative behavior is one of the most dangerous traits to look out for when trying to identify someone with harmful intentions. Manipulation involves influencing or controlling someone in a deceptive or unfair manner to get what one wants, often at the expense of others. A person who manipulates others does not care about the well-being or feelings of those they target. Instead, they view relationships as opportunities to exploit for personal gain. A manipulative person is often charming and skilled at presenting themselves in a favorable light. They may come across as trustworthy, kind, and considerate, but these traits are just a mask. They use charm to draw people in and gain their trust, but the underlying motive is always self-interest. Once they have established this trust, they begin to subtly influence others in ways that serve their own agenda, without regard for the harm they may cause. One of the primary tools in manipulation is guilt. Manipulative individuals are adept at making others feel responsible for their problems or emotions. They might say things like, "If you really cared about me, you'd do this for me," or "I'm the only one who understands you." These statements are designed to create a sense of obligation in the other person, making them feel as though they owe something or are required to act in a certain way. Through guilt tripping, they ensure that the other person complies with their wishes, often without questioning the fairness or necessity of the request. Another common tactic is gaslighting. This is a form of psychological manipulation where the manipulator causes the other person to doubt their perception of reality. They might deny things they said or did, or make the victim question their own memory or sanity. Gaslighting can be incredibly damaging as it undermines a person's confidence and causes them to second-guess themselves, leaving them vulnerable to further manipulation. A manipulative person will also play on others' emotions to get what they want. They might feign vulnerability, playing the victim to elicit sympathy or to get others to do things for them. This can be particularly dangerous because it preys on the natural human instinct to want to help those who are struggling. They may create a false narrative of being mistreated or misunderstood, and by doing so, manipulate others into offering them support, resources, or attention. Manipulative people are skilled at isolating their targets from outside influences. By controlling the narrative and cutting off the target from others who might offer perspective or advice, they ensure that the target remains reliant on them. This isolation makes it harder for the victim to recognize the manipulation and seek help, as they become more dependent on the manipulator for guidance, validation, or reassurance. The danger of manipulation is that it can be difficult to recognize, especially when the manipulator is highly skilled at their craft. Over time, the victim may not even realize they're being manipulated until they find themselves in a situation where they've given up too much, whether it's their time, energy, or resources, without receiving anything in return. This one-sided relationship becomes emotionally draining, leaving the victim feeling depleted and powerless. Recognizing manipulative behavior early on can help protect you from being exploited. Pay attention to patterns of behavior where someone uses guilt, plays the victim, or consistently distorts reality to get their way. If you notice these signs, it's important to set boundaries and not let yourself be controlled by someone who has no regard for your well-being. A desire for power and control is a defining characteristic of individuals who seek to dominate others. These individuals are often driven by a need to assert their superiority and impose their will upon those around them. Their behavior is not about collaboration, mutual respect, or shared goals. It's about exerting influence and control, and in every situation, often at the expense of others. This drive for power can manifest in subtle ways, but the ultimate goal is always to keep others under their thumb, making them feel small, weak, and dependent. One of the most obvious signs of a person's desire for control is their tendency to manipulate situations in their favor. They may create a dynamic where others are constantly looking to them for guidance or approval, feeding their ego and reinforcing their sense of authority. They thrive on having the upper hand and will take steps to ensure they are always in charge. This can be seen in personal relationships, workplaces, or even social settings, where the individual subtly positions themselves as the one who makes decisions and dictates how things should unfold. The need for control often translates into a lack of consideration for others' opinions, feelings, or autonomy. A person driven by power may dismiss or disregard the thoughts and perspectives of others because they believe that only their viewpoint matters. In a relationship, this can look like one person always calling the shots, making all the decisions, and expecting others to comply without question. In a workplace, it might involve micromanaging colleagues or subordinates, refusing to delegate tasks or trust others to take ownership of their work. This constant push to be the one who decides everything prevents others from developing their own agency or independence. Along with controlling behavior comes a tendency to belittle or degrade others. Power-hungry individuals often find satisfaction in putting others down to make themselves appear more dominant. They may mock, insult, or criticize those they view as beneath them, reinforcing their sense of superiority. This can be done publicly to humiliate the target or privately to create feelings of self-doubt and insecurity. By making others feel inferior, they can maintain their position of power and keep those around them in a state of emotional subjugation. The drive for control can also lead to emotional manipulation. Someone who craves power might use tactics such as guilt-tripping, fear-mongering, or intimidation to get what they want. For example, they may create a sense of urgency or fear to manipulate others into compliance, making them believe that failing to do what they want will lead to dire consequences. By using these tactics, they establish dominance and ensure that others act in ways that align with their desires. This need for control can be particularly toxic in relationships. Over time, the person seeking power may isolate their target from others, cutting off external support systems such as friends, family, or colleagues. This makes it harder for the victim to resist or recognize the manipulation because they become more reliant on the controller for emotional support, validation, and guidance. The isolated person may begin to feel like they have no choice but to obey or comply, as they feel they have no other options available. Recognizing the signs of someone who craves power and control is essential to protecting oneself from emotional and psychological harm. When you encounter such a person, it's important to set clear boundaries, assert your own autonomy, and resist their attempts to dominate or belittle you. Power should be a shared resource, not something hoarded or manipulated by one person. Relationships and interactions should be about mutual respect and understanding, not control and dominance. A disregard for morals and ethics is one of the most telling signs of a person who can be harmful to those around them. Morality and ethics guide our decisions, actions, and interactions with others, ensuring we act with respect, fairness, and integrity. When an individual consistently disregards these principles, it signals that they are more concerned with their own desires than with doing what is right. Such behavior not only harms others, but also undermines the foundation of trust in relationships and communities. A person with no regard for moral standards often operates in a world where their own needs and goals take precedence over everything else. They may justify unethical behavior by convincing themselves that the end justifies the means, or they may simply not care about the consequences of their actions. For them, the rules that others live by are simply obstacles to be circumvented or ignored. They are willing to lie, cheat, manipulate, or exploit others in order to get what they want, without feeling remorse or guilt. This disregard for ethics can be seen in various situations. In a business setting, for example, such a person might take advantage of others' vulnerabilities, misrepresent facts, or break the law to gain financial or professional advantage. They might exploit people who are desperate for work, make false promises to secure deals, or deceive customers to maximize profits. Their lack of ethical concern doesn't just affect the individuals they exploit, it can also create a toxic environment for everyone around them, as people begin to question the fairness and integrity of the organization or community. In personal relationships, a lack of morals can be even more damaging. A person who lacks ethical principles might betray the trust of those closest to them, whether through infidelity, dishonesty, or selfishness. They may manipulate their friends or family members for their own gain, using their vulnerabilities against them. For example, they might break promises, lie to cover their own mistakes, or take advantage of others' goodwill. Their actions show a profound disrespect for the values that create healthy, trusting relationships. What makes this behavior especially dangerous is the way it can be masked. Many individuals who disregard morals are highly skilled at presenting themselves as good people. They can be charismatic, convincing, and seemingly kind, making it difficult for others to see the darker side of their character. They may present a facade of being honest, fair, or generous, but their actions betray their true nature. When their true intentions surface, it is often too late for those around them to recognize the damage they've caused. The most insidious part of this disregard for ethics is how it erodes the sense of trust that binds communities together. When someone continually acts without moral consideration, others begin to feel disillusioned, betrayed, or vulnerable. They start questioning the motivations of others and wonder if anyone can be trusted. This distrust spreads like a virus, creating division and chaos where cooperation and understanding once existed. A person who ignores moral and ethical standards also demonstrates a fundamental lack of accountability. They rarely take responsibility for their actions or the consequences of their behavior. Instead of owning up to their mistakes, they will shift the blame onto others or justify their actions with excuses. This refusal to acknowledge their wrongdoing only reinforces their disregard for ethical principles, as they show no intention of changing or improving their behavior. In recognizing this trait, it is important to understand the deeper impact it can have on not only personal relationships but also society as a whole. A disregard for morals and ethics can cause lasting harm, leading to broken relationships, damaged reputations, and a corrosive atmosphere of mistrust. It's essential to hold people accountable for their actions, setting boundaries and standing firm in upholding moral values to protect yourself and others from the negative consequences of unethical behavior. Blame shifting is a classic tactic used by individuals who are unwilling to take responsibility for their actions and seek to avoid accountability. It involves shifting the blame for their mistakes, failures, or wrongdoings onto others, often making others feel as though they are at fault when, in reality, the responsibility lies with the person who is trying to evade it. This behavior is a powerful tool for those who want to protect their image, avoid the consequences of their actions, or manipulate others into taking the heat for them. Blame shifting often manifests in subtle ways. A person who uses this tactic may deny any involvement in a situation where things went wrong, even if they played a significant role. Instead of owning up to their mistakes, they deflect responsibility by pointing fingers at others. They might say things like, if you hadn't done this, none of this would have happened, or I wouldn't have acted that way if you hadn't said that. By focusing the blame on someone else, they avoid dealing with the guilt or negative consequences of their own behavior. This type of behavior is particularly harmful because it distorts the truth and creates confusion. When a person is consistently shifting blame, it becomes difficult for others to discern what really happened. The person who is blamed may start to doubt themselves, feeling responsible for something they didn't do. Over time, this leads to an erosion of trust in the relationship as the victim of blame shifting begins to feel that they are constantly being unfairly held accountable for things that aren't their fault. Blame shifting is often used by individuals who are insecure or unwilling to face their flaws. They may fear that admitting fault will damage their reputation, make them appear weak, or expose their shortcomings. As a result, they choose to shift the blame to others, deflecting attention from their own failures. This tactic can be seen in personal relationships where one partner constantly blames the other for conflicts, miscommunications, or issues in the relationship instead of owning up to their own role in the situation. In professional environments, blame shifting can create a toxic atmosphere. A person who refuses to take responsibility for their mistakes can undermine the morale of their coworkers, who may end up shouldering the blame for errors they didn't commit. This can lead to resentment, decreased productivity, and a breakdown in teamwork. The person who engages in blame shifting is often more concerned with maintaining their own image and avoiding negative consequences than with finding solutions to the problem at hand. This lack of accountability can prevent growth and learning, both on an individual and team level. A person who consistently shifts blame may also use manipulation to make others feel guilty. They might use guilt-tripping phrases like, "You should have known better," or "I wouldn't be in this situation if it weren't for you," to make their targets feel responsible for problems that were out of their control. This is an attempt to maintain control over the situation while avoiding any personal responsibility. The danger of blame shifting lies in its ability to make victims question their own actions and perceptions. Over time, those who are constantly blamed may become defensive, anxious, or passive, unsure of how to navigate their relationship with the blamer. This dynamic creates a cycle of emotional manipulation that can be difficult to break without intervention. Recognizing blame shifting is crucial in maintaining healthy relationships and environments. When you notice someone consistently evading responsibility and pointing fingers at others, it's important to call attention to the issue and set boundaries. Acknowledging mistakes, learning from them, and taking responsibility for one's actions are signs of maturity and integrity. In contrast, blame shifting is a sign of someone unwilling to grow or face the consequences of their actions, and it can be a red flag for toxic behavior. A lack of genuine remorse is one of the most telling signs of a person with harmful intentions. Remorse is a fundamental emotional response that arises when someone realizes they have wronged another person. It involves feeling regret, guilt, or sorrow for causing harm, and it motivates individuals to make amends or avoid repeating their mistakes. However, individuals who lack genuine remorse are often indifferent to the harm they cause. They may offer superficial apologies or justifications, but these actions are not rooted in a true understanding of their wrongdoing. Instead, they may only apologize because they've been caught or because they want to avoid consequences. The absence of genuine remorse can be seen in how a person reacts after hurting others. Instead of acknowledging the pain they've caused and showing sincere regret, they may try to justify their behavior or shift the blame to the other person. For instance, they may say, I wouldn't have done that if you hadn't done this, or I was only reacting to what you said. In this case, they are more focused on defending their actions than truly understanding the impact of their behavior on others. Their apologies, if they offer any at all, feel empty because they are not accompanied by the willingness to change. Individuals who lack remorse may only apologize to maintain a sense of control over the situation or to avoid punishment. Their apology is not motivated by a genuine desire to make things right, but rather by a desire to smooth over the issue for their own benefit. This type of apology is often transactional, offered because it is seen as a necessary step to get what they want, rather than a sincere expression of regret for their actions. When someone lacks genuine remorse, it often means that they are unlikely to change their behavior. Remorse is a powerful motivator for personal growth. It encourages individuals to reflect on their actions, understand the harm they've caused, and make a conscious effort to do better in the future. Without this feeling of remorse, a person is unlikely to recognize the need for change or self-improvement. Instead, they may continue to engage in harmful behavior without any sense of responsibility or accountability. The lack of remorse can also reflect an inability to empathize with others. If a person doesn't understand or care about the pain they've caused, it indicates a deep emotional disconnect. They may see others only as tools to be used or obstacles to be avoided, rather than as individuals with their own feelings, needs, and boundaries. This lack of empathy further solidifies the toxic nature of the individual, as they are not only indifferent to the harm they cause, but also unable to truly connect with those around them on a deeper level. The absence of remorse can create lasting damage in relationships. Over time, the person being hurt will start to feel as if their feelings and experiences don't matter. When someone repeatedly fails to acknowledge the harm they've caused, it erodes trust and makes it difficult to move forward. Without genuine remorse, the individual is unlikely to ever make meaningful changes to improve the situation. This can leave the person on the receiving end feeling frustrated, helpless, and emotionally drained. Recognizing the absence of genuine remorse in someone is crucial for protecting yourself from further harm. While it may be tempting to believe that someone will change if given enough chances, a lack of remorse is often a sign that the person is not willing to take responsibility for their actions or make amends. It's essential to set boundaries with individuals who fail to show true regret for their actions, as they are unlikely to treat you with the respect and care you deserve. An inability to accept criticism is a key trait that often signals a harmful personality, particularly one that lacks self-awareness or maturity. People who cannot handle criticism typically react defensively, becoming hostile or dismissive when confronted with feedback. This inability to accept constructive criticism is rooted in a fragile ego that cannot tolerate being challenged or questioned. Instead of viewing criticism as an opportunity for growth or improvement, these individuals see it as an attack on their character or self-worth. This response can create a toxic environment, as they reject any input that might help them become better or more self-aware. The reaction to criticism from such individuals can vary, but it often involves anger or aggression. Rather than listening to the feedback or reflecting on the points raised, they will react with hostility or make excuses for their behavior. For example, they might shout, deflect, or try to discredit the person offering the criticism. Instead of engaging in a constructive dialogue, they might turn the tables, accusing the critic of being unfair, jealous, or uninformed. In extreme cases, they might even retaliate by spreading lies or seeking revenge to make the critic feel small or irrelevant. At the core of this inability to accept criticism is an insecurity that makes the person highly sensitive to anything perceived as negative. These individuals may have a fragile self-esteem that crumbles when faced with any form of correction. Rather than seeing criticism as a tool for personal development, they view it as an attack on their identity. This can lead to a constant cycle of defensiveness, where they never truly learn from their mistakes because they are unwilling to acknowledge them. This inability to accept criticism can manifest in a refusal to acknowledge their flaws or shortcomings. Someone who cannot take feedback will often deny any personal failings, even when their actions are clearly damaging to others. They may continue to make the same mistakes over and over again because they refuse to recognize the need for change. This lack of self-awareness can hinder their personal growth as they remain stuck in patterns of behavior that harm both themselves and those around them. In relationships, whether personal or professional, this behavior can be especially damaging. When someone cannot accept feedback, it creates an imbalance where one person is constantly expected to accommodate or appease the other. The individual who cannot accept criticism often refuses to acknowledge the impact of their behavior on others, which can lead to frustration, resentment, and emotional exhaustion for those around them. They may push people away by reacting with anger or defensiveness rather than taking responsibility and improving. The inability to accept criticism can lead to a lack of progress in both personal and professional spheres. Individuals who cannot take feedback are less likely to improve in their careers or in their relationships because they are not open to growth. They may remain stagnant in their abilities, missing out on opportunities to develop and become better versions of themselves. Furthermore, others may begin to avoid offering feedback altogether, as they know it will lead to conflict or defensiveness rather than constructive change. Recognizing an inability to accept criticism is crucial for protecting yourself from toxic individuals. If you notice someone consistently reacting poorly to feedback or failing to learn from their mistakes, it's important to set boundaries and limit your interactions with them. People who cannot handle criticism are unlikely to change, as they have little interest in self-improvement or personal accountability. Recognizing the signs of a person with harmful intentions is crucial for protecting yourself and maintaining healthy relationships. Whether it's manipulative behavior, a desire for control, a lack of remorse, or an inability to accept criticism, these traits often point to individuals who are more concerned with their own needs and desires than with the well-being of others. The key is to stay vigilant, trust your instincts, and set clear boundaries when you encounter such behavior. Protect your peace, guard your energy, and remember that you deserve to surround yourself with people who value you, respect you, and contribute positively to your life. By recognizing these signs, you empower yourself to make better decisions and create relationships based on trust, mutual respect, and shared values. Thank you.